Hello and welcome to this video where I, Dharminder Singh Kalika, a final year law student, will be talking to you about the recent farm ordinances which have been passed and now which has been made into a law as an act of the parliament, and the protests which are going on this issue. Of late, I have realized that somehow the people of this country are a bit unaware, and for that matter, it's very necessary for us as the farmers of Punjab to tell you our plight and the reasons why we are protesting. I just want to share my thoughts and feelings from the core of my heart and want to give you a disclaimer at the very behest that I do not hail from any political party or have any political affiliation. This is the voice of the farmers of Punjab which I appeal that the nation needs to hear. I want to begin by saying that agriculture in India is predominantly practiced by only one state, and this accounts for around 2% of the population of this country, actually feeding 70% of the people. So it's imperative that people of India understand the need and questions which the people of Punjab are raising and support our movement. The first thing which I would like to talk about in this today's video is to make you understand what is the reason for agricultural practices in Punjab to flourish and what's the background story about it. In the early 1900s, we had this Indus plain, the Indus Doab, which was in the northwestern region in Punjab, which went to Pakistan. And in this region, our ancestors, our grandparents, our great-grandparents actually shifted from this very region of Haryana and Punjab, which is present day in India, to Pakistan. Because of the British is wanted that we need to irrigate the soil in the British Punjab territory, which is now in Pakistan. So in early 1900s, the tillers of our soils, the sons of the soil, went to Pakistan, tried with their hard work and sweat and blood, actually made agriculture flourish and prosper in that part of the region. When 1947 came, these farmers were told to relocate back into their homes in India. Sadly, with a lot of bloodshed, when the entire country was celebrating the part that we got freedom and independence from the British, Punjab was crying and our woes were not heard. A mass migration, the biggest in ever history, took place in that era. And when Pandit Nehru spoke at the stroke of the midnight hour, every state in this country rejoiced other than Punjab and Bengal, and Punjabis spilled their blood to irrigate our lands. Later on, when this first 5 yearly plans were introduced, agriculture was given prime importance because we were a country of poor and malnourished and impoverished people. In 1951, when the first plan was introduced, Pandit Nehru gave focus to separate states of the country to have separate economic boosters so that the nation can progress together. Some states got tourism, some states got trade, some had ports, some had mineral resources, we had nothing. Our community worked hard again, tilled the soils, made them irrigatable, and with the help of the government at that point of time, started the Green Revolution later on with the Malnobis plans and second and the third plans. So when Indira Gandhi, our Prime Minister, went to US in the 1960s with a begging bowl to seek more rice and wheat for the people of India, she went with what I think as a Oliver Twist seeking for more, but she was humiliated by the US blatantly. So when she came back, she called in scientists like Mr. Swaminathan and said that we need to become a nation which is able to produce for itself and is able to export. Punjab was chosen as the place for this experiment. With Green Revolution, where we pumped out our entire water system, where we actually put fertilizers, all sorts of harmful products on our soil, not worrying about our own health, we made this country in a span of less than 5 years from 1966 from a wheat importing to a wheat exporting nation. Today, India is the second largest importer of wheat and rice in the world, only after China. When everything was settled, this government decided to introduce these three key bills during this pandemic. It's important for everybody to understand that in the year 2014, when Mr. Modi won a landslide victory, he had promised to the farmers of the country that he'll double their income by the year 2024. We all thought that he'll introduce some sort of reform someday or the other. But who would have thought that such whims and fancies like this government has been doing since the beginning will also be applied to the farming sector. The reasons for this government for such hasty introduction of these bills, I couldn't really find out any reason other than two specific reasons. First being to help the government's corporate friends, because they think this is one sector where income is good but they haven't been able to enter. The second is the pressure of the World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization has been pressurizing India to open its markets in the agricultural sector so that big nations can dump their goods into the Indian markets. China and India are the two biggest selling markets for any product. And because being of the biggest market, it's important for these Western nations to challenge the protectionist measures which are applied by smaller countries to protect their farmers. Mr. Modi is bound down to the pressure being inserted by the WTO. And also, someone may ask that how do we know that the government is bound down before the pressure of the corporates? I would like to inform you that in the year 2015 itself, the Adani Group had started opening silos in Punjab. The construction got completed January of this year. In January 2020, the construction was completed. In May 2020, we have this ordinance. In the peak of the pandemic, we get this ordinance so that people don't step out of their houses because there's a national lockdown going on. But I'll say the farmers of Punjab had no other option than to step out to either give their lives to COVID or to the farm bills. The people of Punjab were strong enough to stand and oppose it. Sadly, the national media didn't tell you the real story. But I would like to tell you the real story. The real story is these three acts and bills will systematically destroy the agricultural practice which have been taking place in Punjab. When different states in India in the 1950s, 1960s decided to develop themselves, they chose trade, they chose to use the mineral resources like coal, etc. They chose to promote tourism. Punjab governments, whether it was the Akali government, whether it was the Congress government, systematically over the last 50 years have developed the agricultural system. For 12,000 villages in Punjab, right now we have 2,000 APMCs, the agricultural mandis, which means one mandi for every 6 villages. With the Swaminathan Commission report saying that within 15 minutes or 5 kilometers distance from the farms, you should be having your market to sell. We already have that sort of an existing system. But the government is hell-bent on destroying such a system. The first one is the Essential Commodities Act, which gives a free run to the corporate to hoard grains to the very extent as they like it. Earlier on, there was a limit, there was a ceiling till which a person could hoard these essential commodities. Of course, roti is the most essential commodities, but this government has decided to remove it from the Essential Commodities Act. The second bill, which they call it as the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Bill, is actually the bill where they say we will have one nation, one market. A farmer with 2.5 acres of land cannot pay the freight for transporting his crop from his farm to Bangalore in Karnataka or Calcutta or Pune or Mumbai or anywhere else in the country. A person who's actually not earning more than 20,000 rupees from his 1 acre cannot afford to spend 30,000 on the transportation cost. Where is this whole idea of one nation, one market coming from? Rather, it should have been that the government will not even let you travel an inch outside your land. They will rather buy it from your own very fields. But that's not the case. The third act, which is the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Bill, is something which we generally can call as a contract act, where big companies will invest and take your land's lease on a period of somewhere around 6 months to 5-year term based on a contract. But you and I know for a fact that any dispute arising between a small marginal farmer and a big corporate, who will win? I ask you this question. Do you think the farmer can even stand a chance to win in the court of law? But sadly, ironically, the system of courts has not been put into this act. Rather, the appellate body has been made the court of the STM. Now, the STM doesn't act to give particular orders. The mode is for mediation. The STM should actually be mediating between the farmer and the company. Imagine the exploitation. Point is, the farmers cannot fight the corporates because this will lead to widespread exploitation as it used to happen during the company rule of the British. It's important to understand that the middleman, as the government of India claims time and again, is not the sort of negative term which is accepted worldwide. For Punjab, these middlemen are actually the licensed government holders who are actually selling the produce of the farmers to the FCI and other nodal government agencies. Punjab has an economy based on the Arthiya system. Now, what's this Arthiya system? One needs to understand. The Arthiya system is basically a person from that very particular village where the farmers know this person. And this person acts as an intermediary between the farmer and the seller, which is ultimately the government of India. This function works on goodwill, unlike the banks. The goodwill is that tomorrow, for example, if I am in need of money, even at midnight, I'll be able to actually go to this person, seek and help aid for interest rates, of course, as is applicable with the banks. But the point over here that I wish to make is that banking sector needs guarantees. This sector doesn't need guarantees. Our average land holdings is 2.5 acres. A farmer producing wheat or rice in 2.5 acres cannot go to the bank to marry his daughter for any other health problems, issues which come. So his primary person of interest from whom he can take money is actually this Arthiya. Now, once this Arthiya goes, and I would like to tell you all that the Arthiya is several times the person who even gives the money directly to the Karyana shop or any other bills which the farmer has to pay during those particular 6 months. It's important for all of us to understand the reasonability behind having such a system. I do not speak on behalf of these people, but the issue is that if tomorrow, not even tomorrow, with this particular system in hand, with this new act, this Arthiya system has gone. With the system gone, what are we left with? We are left with the banks or the option of selling our lands. That the MSP, which was guaranteed to the farmers, won't be accepted by these corporates. Why? Because the government, despite repeatedly saying that we will not do away with the system of MSP, hasn't put in a single line to make sure that the MSP system will stay. But also, I would like to inform the people of this country that despite the fact that we have 23 crops under the MSP, we have been just getting MSP for 2 products, which is wheat and rice, and that also for a limited period of a month, that also particularly in a particular state. In Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, you don't get MSP at all. It was just in Punjab and Haryana that you were getting MSP, and that also for wheat and rice. For sugarcane, maize, we don't get MSP at all. Yesterday, the produce, as per the Indian Express report, in Punjab, The MSP for rice is 1925 rupees. Farmers are selling the basmati rice for 1300 rupees. This basmati rice, that means 1300 rupees per quintal, gets to 13 rupees a kilo, is something which the companies pack and sell you as for not less than around, I guess, for 220 rupees. From 13 rupees a kilo to 220 rupees a kilo, just for branding and manufacturing. So the government, I don't know, is living in which heaven, thinking that the corporates will actually be providing the people of this country with the right and the fair amount of price. Furthermore, the government is obliged to buy from the farmer. The private sector won't be obliged to buy. If I have harvested my crop today, this is a food product, this will actually get, the quality will decrease every day. So if I go to the market where the private sector is buying, the private sector will say we buy 25% of your product, and that also for 1500 rupees. If you need the entire MSP, then sell it next week. Now, where do I store my product for this week? The government sector makes it sure that they, even if they have to hire godowns, they have to rent out places, they will buy it. This was the benefit which was being given to the farmers. With this, it's all gone. The government will not buy it because the APMCs have moved on. Certainly for a few years they'll give us good price, make sure the APMC system gets defeated, and then when there's a monopoly built, they won't let the farmer to live. What will they want? To sell their farms to these corporates so that they can take it for lease for the next 50-30 years, which will lead to the widespread exploitation as was happening with the East India Company when they said grow indigo or nothing. And this will also lead to, let me remind you, to the Zimedari system, where people with half an acre of land or a 2.5 acre of land will actually sell this land off to people with 50 acres or 70 acres. This is the ill of the system. And I am not saying that people of Punjab won't be buying the same lands. Of course they will be buying the lands, and this 2.5 acres of land which we have as the average land holding will get changed to rather 20 acres in the next 10 years. We'll all see this. Now, other than this whole thing, there are a lot of legal problems to this issue. We all have seen that how there was no consultation at all. But this is something not new to the Modi government. This shock and awe strategy of this government has gone on for far too long. When it was the demonetization going on, when there was the GST to be implemented, anything which this government has to do has to be done in shock and awe. At 8 PM the Prime Minister comes in and says that I'll do this. From that very moment that gets done, no one is consulted at all. The primary people who you are trying to save, whom you are trying to promote and protect, as the bill's name say, were not even consulted. The principal political parties were not even consulted. We have the Akali Dal. I'm no fan of the Akali Dal, but an NDA, a lie, the oldest ally, leaves you and you don't have a word to say. This arrogant behavior of the center is something, again, a problem. Legally speaking, under the 7th schedule of the constitution, agriculture is under the state list. It's entry 1418 which talks about agriculture. The trade is talked about in entry 33 A and B. Of course, they have the power under Article 249 to take anything away from the state list and make it a central provision. And by the same, I would like to tell you that the people of Punjab, the farmers of Punjab particularly, were getting free electricity so that the groundwater they could pump. But now the center has already introduced another bill. So it's wrong to say that we have 3 bills lined up. The 3 bills have become acts, and there's a 4th bill which will make sure that the farmers of India, of this region, die. So this 4th bill is the electricity amendment bill, from where I believe from the state list again the center will be taking over the electricity costs, and I think they will be imposing the farm bills again for electricity, which will again break the neck of the farmers, which has already broken. I just want to inform the people of this country. It wasn't just for their own benefit that the farmers were actually producing. Farming in any way in India is not a profitable occupation. It's just a method to break even. But it's the satisfaction which the farmers get, which is the most important to them, which is the most fulfilling desire for them. But then, I don't know why the government of India thinks that they can destroy the farmers, the people who can use sickles. And I say this very responsibility shouldn't be tested. We have already faced extremism, separatism in this part of the country. The government of India shouldn't unite such forces again. And this is a deliberate plan right now for the government of India. We are facing a mass exodus, a problem which has not been taken up by any political party. Our youth is migrating to Canada and other countries like anything else. And we have faced the drug problem coming from Pakistan for the past 15 years. There's a drug crisis, there's a farm crisis, there's an exodus going on, there's growing resentment, the average land holdings have gone down, and there's unemployment on the rise. And then this government thinks of introducing these farm bills. You shouldn't be testing such a state with such a history. From 1980s till the 1990s, it was very hard for the government of India to actually make sure that peace can be restored in this region. And when progress is happening, the government has decided to actually break away from the system and impose its own superstitious beliefs on the people of Punjab. My appeal is to the people of India that don't behave in the manner as if the lady in United States did when asked where does she get her food from. There were protests going on in the United States, and the lady said, I don't know about the farmers, I don't think about them, because I get my food from Walmart. The people of Punjab are producing. They need your help. Bollywood doesn't need your help. I just want to say this and appeal to you all to kindly support and share this movement. Because even when it takes the deaf a large sound, this government is too arrogant to hear the voices of the people of Punjab. So it's on, the onus lies with other people of the country so that federal structure can be maintained, no law and order situation gets created, and peace, stability and security of this country gets protected. Jai Hind, Jai Kisan.